Hey everyone! All right, I'm still waiting for Brock to arrive. I talked to his assistant recently, and she didn't say, or well, I don't know if assistant is the right word, but she didn't say anything about being late or canceling, so I'm expecting him to show up any time now. And yeah, what should we talk about while we're waiting? The sacrifice phase is over. Is anybody else relieved? I'm relieved. Here he is. All right.
Hey,
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 thanks so much for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Sorry this has taken so long to make happen, but glad we're finally here.
No, I am too. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time and yeah, coming on to talk to me. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's what an unusual year, what an incredible year, what an opportunity it's been. Looks like you're having fun always.
Yeah, I am. How about you?
Can't help myself
Yeah. So, okay,
always.
my first question has to be, have you been to the new Meow Wolf yet?
I have not. When you
Okay.
say the new Meow Wolf, there's a number of things. So, a dear friend of mine, Michael Beneville, set up Area 15 in Las
That's what
Vegas.
I
Which,
mean.
yeah, okay, yeah. So, if that's that, no, it was his birthday party a week or so ago. I missed that. I've been invited. Sadly, the answer is no, but it will happen soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I went recently when everyone went to, well, a bunch of the, Hexicans went to Las Vegas for the first Hex meetup, large scale Hex meetup, and we went to Meow Wolf, and it was cool. I mean, they have a lot more to build. Like the one in Santa Fe has a lot more complete, but but yeah, it's still really cool. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Well, did you see the things beyond Meow Wolf in Area 15? Because there's a bunch of different, call it, artist collectives, and so you let me know next time. Again, Michael Beneville, who designed and pulled all of the different creatives together. He's one of the most extraordinary creative people in the world. Is a very dear friend of mine. So next time you try to do something there, let me know.
Oh, I definitely will. Actually, like, really would love to get some. I would love to talk to him sometime. I mean, I have been obsessed with Meow Wolf since the first time I went to the one in Santa Fe. It's amazing. The way that he was able to, the way that all those artists were able to come together to work, it really is like special.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure I will make it soon, and so
cool. So on the topic of Meow Wolf, I think the first time that I went there, the thing that really like stuck out to me and that really had my attention was the way that time is, part of the narrative. And then, then when I discovered like the monetization of time with Hex and then also with, crypto tribalism, I was like kind of seeing these things as going together. And one thing that I don't really know the answer to is to what extent you're familiar with the product,
with which product?
with Hex.
Well, I've known Richard Hart for many years. I mean,
Okay.
I think there's interviews. I think there's interviews of him interviewing me, probably 2013, 14, or 15. So I try to stay. Um, I try to stay close to as many of the things as possible. I think as anyone's seen me give a speech before, I'm chain agnostic. I'm kind of a Bitcoin first person, though some of the toxicity that's coming out of the maximalistic side of the community, I find to be kind of like the worst aspects of what you see in the libertarian movement. What it
Yeah.
is it's not welcoming, right? It basically it uh, it does not create a culture of community that is expansive right, that is welcoming people in and growing the community, what it does is it tends to push people away, and so that bothers me. It's a lot of why the Libertarian Party has struggled. It's you're not pure enough, you're not good enough kind of attitude versus, well, here's why I feel this way, and here's why I feel so strongly, where it's call it respectable civil debate, where we can agree to disagree. But I mean, I think this is the foundation of good societal, like what part of what the problem is. So my view is if anyone makes anything that makes the world a better place, we all win. And so I encourage continual innovation, and always glad to see new projects emerging, whether they win, whether they lose. It all moves call it the grand experiment forward. And so I salute all of those that are trying to innovate, as long as it's done with an intention of innovation and, not obviously exploitation. And the vast majority of products, there's a lot of people that have built things where they're naive and didn't have the ability to execute on the things that they did, but they actually thought they could. And so
sure, yeah, plenty of times.
The industry is not filled with as many scammers as people like to say. A lot of it is just dreamers without the experience to really execute. Though there are some bad actors.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even I've seen plenty of people who launch projects, and they really do. They think they're going to be able to complete them, and then they aren't.
Well, that's where, like, the ICO market, if it comes, back again, which I think it could, really depends on us having a better form of governance. And this is where DAOs and DACs can really play a role, where, the founders, the ones that are bringing the project to market, might be the ones that are sending out the rallying call to encourage the resource allocation. But then the community has its ability to vote. And if the community doesn't believe that the developers, the founders are executing, they can basically vote them out of their positions. And in that sort of scenario, we can amass resources around problems in the world that we want to be solved, but no one can run away with the resources. And if they're not performing, they won't continually access them either.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I just saw Eric Voorhees, or listened to Eric Voorhees on Laura Shin, and he was talking about exactly this, about how Fox was moving to a decentralized DAO, and he was stepping down as the company's. I think that he was stepping down as the CEO, and the DAO was going to replace. Do you want me to switch your camera? Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. I was trying to be on time, and so you got me in transit, but now I'm in the studio.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I get it. You've got a lot going on. Oh, here's someone else from the Discord. Were you trying to join?
I wasn't trying to join, but that's okay. I was just going to sit in the green room. Hi, Brock. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm grateful.
I did not mean to break into your stream. I was just going to sit in the back room and watch. You caught me with my hair a muss and everything else. So thanks, Nicole. I'll catch you guys in a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your interview.
Okay. All right. So I've always known you as someone who was like really against the maximalism and toxicity. It's something that we've talked about several times over the last few years. And then when I first approached you about Hex, it was right before the first Hex virtual conference. And I had kind of asked you, would you want to come and speak, even if it's not in favor of the product, and we just couldn't pull it all together in time. But yeah, so you said that you're familiar with Richard Hart, of course, that we've seen interviews.
I'm following Hex. I mean,
okay. So sorry, I think you broke up.
Activity within the community. Well, there's a lot of activity within the community, and so as someone that lives in this space, it's hard not to at least be aware, if not intimately familiar.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's really surprising to me when people say that they're like unaware of it, and I'm like, how? You know, with the way that it's been performing and how active.
The question is, how active and how deep are you in this community, and do you live within a singular silo? You know, I drop into silos and then I come back up for air and I try to understand everything going on up here and then go back down in the silo and up and down and up and around. And, you know, I try to have breadth as well as depth broadly within the industry. I've been around a while, started a lot of things, advised a lot of things, invested in a lot of things. And I attempt to be as familiar as I can be with as much of everything going on. That's a little harder when, you know, you're also working on large infrastructure development in the world, and you know, tons of philanthropy and running for president and active in domestic, state, federal, international, geopolitical. So it's getting harder and harder for me to have the same level of depth in the sector as I'd like, because I'm spread so thin.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I do the same thing, really. Like, I've been very, very immersed in several crypto communities, and right now I would say that I'm pretty siloed in Hex Pulse. I am very, but it's necessary for me to like fully understand what's going on here for my academic research. So all right. I actually, several of the questions that I want to ask you are like advice for what we can do. So I've talked to you before about starting about trying to start like an unbiased, crypto media company. And, I've given you some of my ideas for how to do that. And you've, said that those were good ideas. Now it seems like we're starting this little media company with Discourse Syndicate, but most of the streamers are Hex and Pulse very specific. So like, what do you think that we can do to offer even representation? Or is that even something that we should be trying for?
Yeah, I'm not sure you need to. It depends on what you're attempting to build. Do you want to build a truly independent media network? Do you want to build a media network that is censorship resistant? Do you want to build a financial media network? Do you want to build a crypto media network? Do you want to build, a Hex Pulse network? And so you really have to ask yourself, how granular is the thing you want to build? Because you can go all the way up to building everything, or you can say, I want to build the thing where I've got the thought leaders, I've got the experts in this particular area to provide the best source of information. At least, we've got a number of experts, and you can be the source of news for that community. And that you can probably do really, really well already without having to build out a whole bunch of infrastructure, without having to focus on how are you going to pay for the development of everything, and how are you going to monetize it, and how are you going to staff it. So, you really have to ask yourself, what are your ambitions, right? What is the objective? What is the constituents, right? Who are the stakeholders that you're trying to serve? One of the things I wrote into a chat is I would encourage you to reach out to Luke Stokes.
Okay.
And so there's a new media network focused on independent media that's launching with lots of channels like this. And Luke is one of the people trying to find the right people to run their channels. And what they provide is
all the distribution. They've got access to over 100 million people. And, they're not here to tell you what to do. They're not here to censor you. They're just here to take your message, amplify it, monetize it for you, let you take, most of the money and all that sort of good stuff.
Okay. Definitely. I wrote that down, and the name, I think that I must follow Luke on Twitter already.
Yes. Yeah. And they put they've already invested over $100 million into the technology platform to do just that.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Oh, here's another question. You get you're always on some media program, not just within cryptocurrency, but I just watched you on, I think it was on Fox, wasn't it? And I was just wondering if you had some advice for how we can help get Richard more mainstream coverage like that.
Well, it depends on what the coverage is, right? I think that most of the coverage that he'd be seeking is to talk specifically about what's going on within this community, similar to how a Charles Hodgkinson would be talking about Cardano, or how a Vitalik Buterin would be talking about Ethereum. And these people do get a fair amount of media.
Yeah.
And the way that you typically do that is you actually hire a traditional public relations firm that specializes in communication with traditional media.
We tried that.
Well, then try hiring another firm. And because maybe you hired the wrong firm. I don't know. May have been the wrong timing. There's a whole host of reasons why things don't work out as intended.
Oh, I know why it didn't work out.
What is your view as to that?
Richard wouldn't listen to the PR.
Well, that can, that can not always be a bad thing. It doesn't look like Elon Musk is always listening either. So, but it's good when you hire professionals to at least listen to them. And people want to help you if they feel heard. It's a bit of a two-way street. It's not purely transactional, right? It's not just because you're paying them. And normally if someone is good at what they do, there's a lot of people that would pay them. And if they're supporting you, it's because they also believe in your mission and they like working with you. And, that life is a little more complex. It's not, and nor should it be so transactional. But if it didn't work the first time, what do they say? Try again. Try again.
Yeah. It may be that the timing is just a little better now, or maybe we can find a better fit for the agent or the agency. All right. You work a lot with government regulators, and I recently say that you go out and approach them and try to work with them to get them to understand crypto so that regulations can be, so that they can make regulations, right? So how do you, my dog is being crazy. How do you reach out to how do you reach out to regulators? Because there's so much speculation about, I don't even know if it's possible to get regulators to comment on your product.
So I don't reach out to regulators to encourage regulation. It's human nature to fear that which we don't understand. So it is natural for regulators, for incumbents, right? For institutions that are, call it of the old economy, right? We're from the new economy. Let's think about it this way. And it's natural for the old economy to fear the new. How do you conquer fear? You conquer fear with knowledge. And so if you want to put people's concern or to put them at ease, you do that with education. You do that by, actually presenting kind of what's going on here, because the reality is that there's already a great deal of regulation. We have a lot of regulations that go back before the computer and the internet. We have a lot of regulations in our industry that go back to like the 1930s. Not good regulations that they probably need updating, and there's a lot of regulations that probably just are, regulations should probably have expirations. You have this concept of the law of unintended consequences. And we create a law with a certain intention, and sometimes it doesn't happen. And exactly that message there. Right now, there is something going on, which it is your time to call your senator. So back to regulators. The good news is, our elected officials, they are available to you can send them messages, you can make phone calls. Don't be intimidated. Our government is elected by us, at least in theory, right? And they govern over us, but it's important to be engaged in the conversation. The future is going to happen to us, or it's going to happen with us. So let's get involved. And so my conversation with regulators is typically to put them at ease by addressing concerns, by empowering them with knowledge, letting them know, what's going on with regulations, how this matters on a global basis. And if they are going to regulate, because I understand the role of the regulator is to protect people in theory. And so if you're going to regulate, let's make sure that there's sensible regulation. Let's make sure that what we do continues to foster and nurture innovation. And what is it that we're ultimately doing here? What is it that this industry is doing? There's 4 or 4.5 billion people on the planet that are on or underbanked. We are collectively, as a broad community, solving the issue of financial inclusion, right? We are empowering people with an open banking system to put financial tools in the hands and financial literacy in the hands of people. High yielding savings account. We can lift 1 billion people out of poverty, and that we live in a global world.
Yep.
It's not just about what the U.S. wants to do, because there's lots of other countries. What's China going to do? And that we need to be mindful of the global chessboard, and the principles upon which the United States was founded: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We fought against tyranny to end monarchy, to create a better system. A lot of the principles on which this country was founded are still the principles that I think many of us in this community ascribe to. We maybe just aren't happy with all the things that are currently going on. But when we think back, upon again the principles of this nation, there's a solid foundation here. We may just be a little lost. But again, who's to blame?
Yeah.
You're over the age of 18 and you can vote. It's kind of up to us, which is why I encourage us to get involved and don't vote for the lesser of two evils, but to vote your conscience, to vote for what you believe in, because I think we're going to forever stay in this downward spiral, this cycle of left, right, left, right, left, right, until we actually decide to make a collective step forward.
I think that there are a lot of people who have completely lost faith in the democratic system, particularly after this most recent, presidential election, where they don't feel like their votes count, and maybe they don't.
I mean, there's certainly more questions being asked now than ever before, which is why we need to get involved.
Mm-hmm. So now is a good time to come in.
Freedoms that we have, if we do not continue to do the work to protect the rights that we have, the rights that people died, for us to have these privileges, you use them or lose them. Mm-hmm. That's the way of things. And I encourage us all to get involved. Call your senators right now. Do that in the next 24 hours. They're trying to stick legislation in to this infrastructure bill, that is going to determine how our industry is regulated, buried in an infrastructure bill, rather than giving it a container, for something this significant. That the current numbers, I think this is probably an overstatement, but it says that 42 million Americans have cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. That number sounds a little high to me, but it's tens of millions. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of voters. We do have a voice. We are no longer the early adopters anymore. Or we're not the early adopters. We're no longer alone.
Yeah. Where would you say that we are on that adoption curve?
We are legion, and we also have a lot of money. You know, when Bitcoin hits $100,000, a majority of the world's billionaires will have made their money from Bitcoin. And that's just talking about Bitcoin with all the other things going on in cryptocurrency. So we are an affluent and large in numbers constituent. We do have a voice that matters. And it's important that we exercise those privileges and make our voices heard.
I think a lot of people are voting with their feet and voting with their dollar and abdicating their, you know, I mean, you know,
like to go where? But
Puerto
to do
Rico,
what?
For one example.
Puerto Rico is the United States.
Yeah, it is, but you do give up your, you know, right, your vote in the federal, in the, nope, Margie's.
Yes, you lose your vote for president.
Okay.
You still get to vote in Puerto Rico, so you still have a vote in your local government. And what you're receiving in return is you don't have taxation without representation. And so our member of Congress, like with Washington, D.C., is a shadow congresswoman in this case, Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez. So she has a seat, but she doesn't have a vote. So she's elected, but doesn't actually have a vote. And the same is true of us. We don't get to vote for the president. But as a result of that, you can't have taxation without representation. We also, as a territory, don't give any money to the IRS.
Right. Okay. All right. So here's an important question. Do you own any hacks?
I do not, as far as I know, but our office, call it our business of the things that I do. We're a team of 35 people, and the crypto side of the house, I'm pretty much generally I don't trade. I'm pretty much always a hodler, but it is possible.
That's even more reason to hold it.
But it's possible the team does. The last time that I got involved in expanding our, call it token exposure, I took a pretty expansive list, mostly because I want to be a supporter of community. I want to be a supporter of, and it's not because I'm looking for token appreciation. Money is not what motivates me anymore.
Sure.
I'm motivated by making a positive impact in the world, and I believe in us. I believe in us as a community of pioneers and innovators that are fighting to create a world with greater accountability for governance and government, but that also creates more accountability for ourselves as well, a lot of personal responsibility that comes with that. I believe in a world of inclusion. I believe in a world of democratization of opportunity, where, everyone has the potential to win if they choose. So I'm just always grateful for all of the wonderful communities, as long as they're doing things in a good way, right? As long as they are, I don't know if you've ever seen me in any of my talks. I can't recall ever advocating for anyone to invest more than $100 in Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I know.
I've never encouraged anyone to invest really in anything in this space. When I say invest $20, $50, or $100, I've always said this is an investment in your own education, in your own knowing. This is you're paying tuition so that you can make informed decisions for yourself. Because it's my view that as long as you're making decisions for yourself and you're not doing what other people are telling you, it's hard for anyone to take advantage of you, because you're doing it knowing at least enough, and you're doing it with your own consent, and not because I told you to. And that's what I like and I love about this community is we're a community of free thinkers and people that think for ourselves and choose for ourselves.
So in your observations of the Hex community, because I know that there are a few people, at least a few people, who you've been following throughout for the last couple of years, would you say that there's anything that, because I know that one thing that you look at as an investor is community and activity level of community and, you know, what the community is like. Is there any, are there any observations that you have or that you've noticed about the Hex community that you think could change or be improved or maybe not change? I don't know. Any observations to share?
What I've seen is it appears that the community is growing. The community appears to, activity appears to be expanding. A lot of tattoos.
Yeah, I have one.
By the way, which is a good sign. I'd call that commitment.
Yeah.
That's a committed community, not fair weather.
Yeah.
And so, you know, these are all really positive things. You know, I'll actually go back and check with the team to see what, if anything, we're doing. I'm, again, I've spent the last 3.5, 4 years expanding my philanthropic activity, my infrastructure development activities in Puerto Rico and elsewhere in the world, as well as my political activities. And all of these things, and having a 2.5-year-old child,
Yeah.
all of these things reduce the amount of time that I would have to do these things. But with that, you know, I also have a wonderful team. But like crazy things, I'm looking at the background here. I see a bunch of ships and what looks like a skull. I can't really tell.
That's our theme.
Yeah. So I bought 2 cruise ships this year. So I have 2 of the 5 largest private vessels in the world. Actually, I think I might be buying with a group of friends right now an amazing pirate ship that looks like just like one of these. It's a replica, a very old replica of a pirate ship. It's in the Mediterranean right now, and but I mean, I wasn't looking to do this. I try to preserve, you know, as someone that views themselves as a bit of a futurist, someone that's always trying to think what's coming, what's around the corner, what's coming next. One of the things that I do in those studies is I spend a tremendous amount of time studying the past. I have this view that you can only see as far into the future as you can see into the past. I believe there's a direct correlation between past knowledge and future vision. And so one of the things that I do in all of these studies and research is I preserve a lot of historic sort of artifacts. And so there was this cruise ship built in 1961 for the president of Portugal called the Funchal, which is the capital of Madeira. And by the way, Portugal has 0 taxes on crypto sales for people that have made that their primary residence. That does not work for U.S. citizens, but for all of our non-American brothers, sisters, friends, family, tribal members, community, whatever, Portugal is definitely something to be paying attention to. But it was built for the president of Portugal in 1961, like the Air Force One of ships. And then the King of Portugal took it over in 1972. It was used to deliver the king's body. And he was also the emperor of Brazil to deliver that body. And then through the passage of time and COVID lockdowns and all the things, the bank was like selling it off. And because no one could go there to inspect it, it was about to be bought by scrappers that were going to melt it down for its raw materials. And this is like a national treasure. And so someone calls me up and they're like, Brock, do you want to save this like national treasure? I'm like, a 500-foot plus ship? All right, sounds like fun. I get to learn about maritime law and all the things that we can do in the, living on the ocean. And I've always been a fan of Patry Friedman and seasteading. And, I'm like, all right, this seems like an interesting move. And so we saved this national treasure. And so it's not being melted down. It's being turned into a hotel museum, to be permanently parked in Lisbon and all sorts of stuff. But I had to get a second ship because the joke I made in the beginning is you never know when you're going to need an ark. And so if that one's going to be permanently parked, I needed one that moves.
Yeah. And so I guess the pirate ship you don't know yet because you haven't.
Oh, so the pirate ship is great, and it looks like that's all going forward. But
Okay.
the pirate ship, you wouldn't want to use one of those for a transatlantic voyage. We used to, but I would not advise it today.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
These are more fun. Those are fun for like the Mediterranean, maybe a Caribbean ride. But if you actually want to
Cross the ocean, you don't want to do it on a pirate ship.
voyage, I recommend a bigger boat, like it's in the movie Jaws, and I think we need a bigger boat. The pirate ships would not be my recommended means of transport across the ocean, which I intend to do.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So here's a question from the community. People wanted to know about challenges that EOS faced in adoption with like BSC so rapidly eclipsing it, and with Pulse Chain launching soon. I think people want to be aware of some of the challenges that could be facing with adoption.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the things that most people don't know, and it's hard to understand without being told if you're not living in the eye of the storm. And so the EOS sale was so successful that it became the lightning rod for everything regulator. When you bring $4.2 billion in a token sale, let's just say all eyes on you, which makes serving your community and it just makes everything you do really hard, because you've got an army of lawyers, and compliance people that are just there overseeing every single action and everything you do to the point that you feel like you can't move. And so, this is an area where I know everybody kind of saw and followed that Block One and had to deal with all of these things, but I don't think most people really understand or appreciate how challenging that was for them. And so I don't think that the market is different now. I mean, this is again years later, and when the ICO market was doing what it was doing, that created that really is what caught the eyes of regulators in ways that kind of brought a lot of, I'd say, negative attention into the market. Obviously, upon long discussions with regulators and people that had, kind of looked at what the organization had done, clearly the organization dotted their I's and crossed their T's and still exists and are doing big things as a result of it. But still with their hands somewhat tied. I'm not sure that's the same issue for you. The other thing that I would say, and this is an area where the EOS community or Block One failed, and again, I'm not to point fingers or blame them for it because of the reasons I've just stated.
Sure.
But it's imperative that we serve our community first. A good steward, a good custodian, a good leader, feeds their guests as a host first, and they serve themselves last. These are the types of people that inspire, others and create a community that, can thrive for the long run. And the communities that fail, are typically the ones where those at the center are focused on lining their own pockets versus serving their community, right? All for one and all for all. And that's the most important thing is remember that as a community, we're all in this together. and to operate more from a we versus me mentality, selfless over selfish, while still, looking out for yourself. You still have that responsibility, but rising above the singular responsibility of taking care of me and understanding that as a community, we will thrive or die together. And too often we forget that.
That is really important. That is something that we definitely need to keep in mind, especially with this major expansion going on, and people kind of going in different directions. Because for so long we've been stuck, or not stuck, but we've been just super hyper focused on one product. And now it's expanding to a whole ecosystem, and remaining united is really important. Thank you for that message. All right, what have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
Well, I mean, I talk about things endlessly. The good news is I'm not going anywhere. I'm forever in service to our collective future. And, if I hope to help mitigate some of the biggest risks that we may face from regulators by addressing concerns before they become actions that overreach. And right now, it was said once, I'm going to say it a third time, right now for all of us in the U.S., this is an important time to reach out to your senators. We are a big community of voters. And we are an affluent community of voters, and we are a young enough community that we are the future. Let's make our voices heard. This is, I don't usually, say, hey, we should all try and go do this. But this is happening right now. I mean, you can go do a Google search and you'll see what's going on. I think there was an alert that was sent out here during the talk. And, our voices matter. Not always will we be listened to or will our suggestions be taken. But I spend enough time doing this that I do believe it matters, and I do believe it has an impact, or I wouldn't spend so much of my time doing this.
All right, everyone. So remember to write your senators and Congress people, or call, right?
Senators right now, because this is in the Senate. Okay. So like the immediate is Senate, and here I'm gonna see if I can grab something and drop.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to show the audience screen. So when I saw Brock in person in Anarchapulco in 2020, we were talking about how the Gucci was like so on with their symbolism on their sneakers, and the symbolism on their sneakers has recently changed, and I'm not as big of a fan. I don't know what you think, Brock.
I'm less of a fan. I mean, I am a fan of Disney. Yeah. Having grown up, but a lot of the characters, a lot of the designs now seem to be Disney branded.
Oh, okay. So I'm just like looking at these. They're like, cats and bananas, and I'm like, I don't know. This isn't as cool. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, sorry. Were you able to find that link that you wanted to share?
Yep. Here it is. Okay, comments. I'm just going to drop it in the comment section, right?
Oh, actually, wait, yeah, you can do that.
In the private chat with you. Here it is. It's called fightforthefuture.org. That's dropped in there. It's fightforthefuture.org. red alert, call the Senate to save crypto. The Senate is about to vote on a bill that could kill crypto. It's got a phone number for you. Call your lawmakers. It's poorly written. It's not well thought out. And it would not be good for any of us in crypto in the United States, and not good for the United States. This is not good for, I think, anyone. But this is unfortunately one of the problems with how legislation in the country works. A bill that's supposed to be about infrastructure and upgrading the infrastructure to stimulate the economy, create future jobs, and all this sort of stuff. Is not the intent, but lawmakers like to stick things into large bills for reasons that I don't think are transparent.
Sure.
And this is, if regulation is going to be, if bespoke regulation or new regulations are created for this industry, it at least deserves its own platform to be thoroughly discussed with ample time, not to be jammed into an infrastructure bill.
Okay. You guys know what to do.
Thank you so much.
So to wrap this up, the last question that I always like to ask is, and I need to change the screen for this, is will you build a bridge with me?
Will I build a bridge? Yes.
Yeah, you build a bridge. Got to go the opposite of how you think you should go. There you go. Yeah, you got it.
There we go.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Hang out for 1 second. I know RG wants to say hi. Thank you all, everyone, for tuning in and watching. A week from today, well, I'll be here. You guys know. I'll always be back. All right. Thank you, Brock. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.